All right, so a few weeks ago, I introduced a Minto Pyramid model, and it's so I have a goal with TRP with my leadership, and not just to have it be about referrals to each other, but to try to really do anything we can to enhance each other's business. And so some of that is how can we bring education that has impact and elevate our businesses. That's what the Minto Pyramid model is about. It's a way to force thinking about my business or my profession, my products, my services. And so we're going to use this Minto Pyramid model as an educational segment today. And then hopefully this will work. I'm going to try to model Crux Point on that model at some point here. So two goals: demo the Minto model and increase your referrals to Crux Point by education about Crux Point. So this is a tool to sharpen your thinking and communication about your business and what you do and so forth. So you start with a clear purpose, and this is what's compelling. You use the you should framing. So if I was talking about Crux Point, and this is deliberately pushy, you guys, if I was talking about Crux Point, I say, Lydia, you should sign up for Crux Point. Now, we never talk to prospects or clients that way because it's too intrusive. But when we're thinking about our business, we want to be able to answer the question, why should Lydia sign up for Crux Point? And so the you should frame forces us to get more clear. We want to know what's the effect we want to have on our audience. What do you want them to conclude or decide? And above all, what do you want them to do? So that you should frame is very deliberate. You wouldn't ever show that to a prospect or talk to them that way because of the pushiness in it. It's a useful frame to clarify our thinking. Now, row number two, if I'm saying you should to someone, then that person listening effectively is going, why should I? Who cares? And what we have to do there, ideally, is focus on benefits for the listener, not on features of our product. So we did some work on that 2 weeks ago. So line number two in the pyramid model, by the way, this is a pyramid. It just doesn't look like one. Line number two, it has to do with customer or prospect sitting there going, why do I care? Why you? Why would I do anything? And then underneath that, under each one of the, in this case, there's 4 columns, then you have to build out your case. So you're making an assertion here. Why? What's the evidence behind it? What's the deal here? So we start out with the deliberate statement, you should do something. Why should I? And then we answer that. And those 3 layers help us to sharpen our business. So if I say you should learn to use the Minto Pyramid model, that's a you should frame. There it is. And I'm going to go at the next level. What I'm going to try to do is put a benefits-focused set of statements about why the person should learn to use this. Well, number one, it'll sharpen the focus of your business or career and make your work more rewarding. Number two, it'll help you clearly define your best prospects and increase your client or customer base. It'll help you improve your products, services, keep customers happy, increase your revenue, net profit, and personal income. I'm trying to speak to the things that would be important to the listener here. Now, if you don't mind, Lydia, I want to talk briefly about your presentation. If we're feature focused, Lydia did a beautiful presentation like 3-4 weeks ago, and it was really good because we got to know a lot about who she is and about her magazine. But her presentation was features focused. It has an 80% open rate. And I'm sitting here on line number 2 going, who cares? What's that to me? That's just a feature of, we have a nationwide Who cares? What's that? What's that to me? I don't care about that. It's real small magazines. So you have more visibility. Who cares? I mean, you're talking about your magazine. When we go beyond that layer, what we're looking for here is how am I going to produce benefit for the prospect, for the client? You get the difference? So we'll have fun with that. When we move past feature focus, in the case of Lydia's presentation, the person who's over here listening and making a decision, they want to know whether they're going to get business from advertising in Lydia's magazine. That's a benefit focus. Feature focus is, oh, we got an 80% open rate. If it doesn't produce business for my business or a status for me or some important kind of visibility, then who cares? So when we come down to the next level here, if I'm going to say, you should learn the Minto model, it'll sharpen the focus of your business. I have to be willing to go through and lay out, how is that so? So this is a couple examples of how the model would be used. And I'm planning on using this on the most important thing about Crux Point probably ever, which is I have target companies and I think they should buy Crux Point because I'm ready to get Crux Point sold and get it on a national platform. So I will put myself through this model. Levels health, you should buy Crux Point. Why would I care? And then I work my way through that whole thing. Now, we're going to do a demo applied to Crux Point. So you should open your eyes, search your network of family, friends, and colleagues, and refer them to Crux Point. Now, you're my audience right now. I would never show this to you. This is me building a framework for how I'm going to communicate with you. So you would not normally see this as an audience. What we're doing today is you're seeing two things, the use of the model and learning about Crux Point. Everybody, are we clear there? So we would not ever, I would never have a prospect that would ever see this model. I use this to build how I'm going to talk to my, so you should get your flooring done at
Second by an artwork.
Who cares? Flooring is flooring. What's it cost? You know? So we come down to that next level. And now, why in the world would a customer or a prospect want this flooring company to do it compared to everybody else out there? I'm trying to get out of the commoditized problem, commodity problem. Flooring is flooring is flooring. So here are my 4 bullets. Now, 4 is not the right number. This is just demoing. We live in a health catastrophe. You're affected by it, and you personally can do something about it. Again, you're not ever going to see that, but I'm framing how I'm going to talk to you. Number 2, 90% of the people that you know and love are unnecessarily growing ill. Pow. Their lives are being shortened. How much? On average, about 15 years in America. You can reduce the suffering and extend the lives of people you know and care about. And the world needs what Crux Point offers. You can actually help ensure its survival, growth, and success. Now, I've just framed up with 4 bullet points. There would probably be 6, but as for a demo, what I'm trying to get on that line there is things that are important to the listener. And then I have to build the case underneath it. So if I say we're living in a health catastrophe and you can do something about it, now I'm going to frame up, listen, we're very sick. Heart disease kills 1/3 of us. It should only be 3-4%. Diabetes, 1 in 7, now diabetic. Cancer, half of adult Americans are going to get an invasive cancer diagnosis. 1 out of 2, half of this room. Obesity is 42%, overweight is 75%, high blood pressure is 120 million adults. There are only 1 in 8 people who are metabolically healthy, and the average loss of life is over 10 years. So this is how I'm going to start building out. Listen, we're in a health catastrophe, but I want you to know you can do something about it. Go to column 2. You're surrounded by people who need what we want, what we offer. Oh, I just noticed I got a wrong slide in here. That's all right. So very few people you know are truly healthy, maybe none. Hidden inside each person are these health-destroying processes, etc. So that slide is an error on my part. I apologize. This is not the final version. But the point that I'm trying to make here is if we do this structure right, it really makes us think through what the heck we're up to here. You can reduce, these slides, unfortunately, I didn't get the latest versions in there. So this is less good than where I ended up. The world needs what Crux Point offers. We all know the medical system is broken. It's a body shop. It's pills, poisons, procedures with 15-minute appointments. We get people out of this sick care system and so forth. Now, when I get all done building that framework and I feel like, okay, I think I'm ready to go, then I move into how am I going to prove up these assertions? What am I going to put in front of an audience or a prospect? And this, honest to God, gets really personal. I'm Kate Paulin. Why in the world should I be your realtor? Why me out of the thousands of realtors that are out there? And I've got to start searching my own soul. What is it that I'm offering that is so distinct? I'm Jim Crowder. Why should you get your mortgage with me? What is it about coming to me and working with me? So we have to think through, what the hell am I really offering my market, my potential market, and how I'm going to demonstrate that? So we come back to here. I'm sorry. I'm stuck. Oh, here's pop through. Okay, let me come back. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do here is start proving up the first 2 columns. I put them together because they cover the same subject. So now, what do I want to show a person, a prospect? I'm going to talk about the conditions that we now consider normal. What we mean by that is typical. And I'm going to do that with imagery. I'm going to do it with data. We went from 1.2% obese in 1890 to 42% obese in 2018, 2016. Type 2 diabetes is the most horrific. We went from virtually 0 in 1890 to 13%. 1 out of 7 Americans are now diabetic. And the trend line's still going up. Heart disease. Oops, my bad. And what we start seeing is starting around 1875, all the trend lines look the same. So when we look at cancer and heart disease and blood pressure and autoimmune, they all look like this. And there's really not any significant dementia, Alzheimer's, and so forth. And a lot of people say, well, that's just because we're living longer. No, on an age-adjusted basis, this is what it looks like. Alzheimer's, the dementia, same, one after another. So the trend lines for all these major diseases are bad. So now what I'm trying to do right now is, having built out my Minto Pyramid framework, I'm trying to load my story in behind it. How am I going to get people to, remember I said, open your eyes. How many people to open their eyes to what's going on? Because I actually want them, some of them for themselves, but I also want them to look around them, given that how saturated we are with this problem, what can we do about it individually or collectively? So all the trend lines are bad. We just keep presenting the data. we should ask, where's all this coming from? Can we do something about it? Remember, I got over there in that territory. You can do something about it. Critical insight is we actually now live in a human-created toxic environment that started with mining. And once we learned to concentrate metals like lead and iron and stuff like copper and stuff like that, we started introducing concentrated poisons into our environment. Now we have 10, 20,000 chemicals a year being introduced without sufficient monitoring. So it is a big problem. What's it doing? It's making all of us sick. And the worst of it is that we're being manipulated and exploited by large, I'm using the word corrupt intentionally here, because they know exactly what they're doing. And they're outsourcing the illness while they collect the profit. So they create the problem, that's the food industry, and then the medical industry sells us a solution, and it works brilliantly for both of them. Doesn't work so brilliantly for us. This is what it looks like on a large scale. This is known as an externality. An externality is a side effect of all this plastic production. And you've got to assume the marketing department is corrupt, meaning they will tell you that's loose gravel. And then I said, we're working quickly to resolve this issue. It's hilarious. If you could ever sit at the table where some of these things are being discussed, you'd be horrified. Did you know, this is actually truth, chimps sometimes beat up their greedy resource hoarding overlords to death in public and then eat the corpse in defiance. That's actually a great metaphor for what we need to do with some of these corporations. Seriously.
I agree.
I mean, they need to be called to account. I got my fingers crossed that RFK and some of what's going on can start that process finally. Now, when we come back to column 3, prove up what you said. Now I'm back to my model. I'm in column number 3 over here. You can reduce the suffering, save the lives of people you know. And this is the one that even makes me sit back in my chair. A 67-year-old that does not have a chronic illness like high blood pressure, heart disease, cancer, autoimmune, on average, this is average, lives 22.6 more years. What that means is if a person is not being assaulted by a chronic illness and they're 67 years old, the average person in that age is going to live to be 100. Average. Some longer and some shorter. If we take a reasonable shot at what that means, it's probably from 92 to 108 or something like that. But the net of it is stunning. And the quality of life is better. So we're back to, do we need to participate in this well-engineered catastrophe? And the answer is no. Well, what can we do? We can't live a toxic lifestyle in a toxic environment and medicate ourselves out of our diseases. So once we're broken, we need to recognize the medical system does not restore our health and vitality. But we have agency in the issue. There's much that we can do. We can succeed. We've got to get to a point we know what to do. To have normal, meaning superior health, we have to choose to learn to live well. How do we go about doing that? Well, we've got to be able to offset the effects of this toxic environment that we're living in for sure. The status quo path leads to very bad outcomes, so we can choose differently. And I'm not going to tell anybody that choosing differently is an easy course. It generally requires a hell of a lot of discipline. But I also would say most people take better care of their automobile than themselves. All right, so what can you do? We can learn about the drivers of the disease and bring them under control. Also, in terms, there's a movement happening. People are getting fed up with all of this illness and obesity and diabetes and so forth. So, in a way, this is a pitch like, don't be part of that. opt out of this nightmare. Now, this is, again, a metaphor. Be the rebel, buy the chickens, grow the food, homeschool the kids, become ungovernable. The right thing to say is to become unmanipulatable, and take yourself out of that. We go into the grocery store, and 80% of what's in there is obesogenic and toxic to the human body. 80% of what's sold as food is harmful. So every time we walk into the grocery store, we're entering a toxic environment to buy the stuff we're going to consume. There's a critical insight. If you don't do something different, you end up where you're headed. I had, you guys, I had the delightful experience of turning 80 years old 3 days ago. Well, I had the flu. But we can do a lot more to take care of each other. How many people can we reach? Even myself with expert experience presenting to groups, if you put me in front of 100 people who have the need, I am only talking to 7 or 8 people in that room. We can't reach everybody, you guys. So we have to be willing to say, there are probably people that I can touch and reach and make a difference with, but I'm going to have to recognize that 9 out of 10 times the answer is going to be no. Now I'm on to column 4, prove up what you've said. And that's, the world needs us. You could help us survive here, help us scale this thing up and become something. So, and it's here where I would have to put in like case studies and testimonials and things like that. And I just didn't, because it's overkill today for what we're trying to accomplish. And I want to leave room for you guys to talk and ask questions and so forth. But I think one real central thing about Crux Point that is that even if we already have a manifest disease, what is so important is we can usually get that stopped and reversed and get you back to really, really good health. I'm not going to share all my personal stories, but I mean, some of the highlights in my life, I was had a cerebral hemorrhage in 2007, was in ICU. I escaped that with minimal damage to my cognitive function and memory banks. I was severely mold poisoned, developed AFib. I'm now, over the last 90 days, I've only had 3 or 4 days that I've had AFib. The rest of the time I've been in sinus rhythm. These things we're not stuck with. There actually are ways out of this kind of trouble. And so when somebody says to us, have a great life, we might say, well, it's too late for me to have a good one for yourself. That's actually not true. Most of the time, we can get that illness halted and reversed. And that's something that's our cornerstone at Crux Point, is doing that. If we're already ill, what's interesting is that our disease can teach us how to live. It will give us the feedback. It's the oil pressure gauge, the engine light, the illness, the symptoms that are feeding back to us. It's actually, these are the feedback loops that tell us whether we're on course or off course. And we use that a lot at Crux Point to bring people's health back. Get rid of the risk, lengthen the life, restore the vitality. And I've said it to a lot of people. I have been through a lot in my life. I'm 80 years old. I have the most pain-free body of my entire life. That's how it should be. Our bodies shouldn't hurt. I'm almost done, Jim. It's going to be one or the other. We have to learn how to do this, or we're fated to be part of that crowd and have a shorter life. And we've got to recognize the medical system really knows nothing about how to get us out of this problem. They can issue pills, they can do procedures, they can put in devices, they can issue poisons if we get cancer. They can issue antibiotics if we have infections. So the journey is living well now, restoring health, and life is good. It can be great. And that's the presentation. Now, what I wanted to show as an example of setting up the Minto Pyramid and then using it as a framework to build how we could go about, how it could go about communicating with people. throw it open right there.
Okay, run, Gary.
Okay,
But I have a request that you add the correct slides and just send them to us via email. I'd love to see the correct version.
I'll send the deck.
Thank you.
Yeah. Like,
I mean, based off the graphs and kind of what I've learned, it seems like as obesity rates have picked up, so have increased